Blio, B-L-I-O. It's a free software ebook reader from Ray Kurzweil. So they're saying you have 1 million books that are downloadable for free. This is a sample of one of the earliest books for economics, Adam Smith's book on the wealth of nations. So I am assuming this is a product of Google's scanning or somebody else's scanning. What's unique here is that you can now do the so-called read aloud. So the text is highlighted as the computer reads the text of the book. Here we go.
An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith, published 1776. Category S, Nonfiction, Political Science, Science Source, http://n.wikisource.org. About Smith. Adam Smith, FRSE, baptized June 5, 1723 OS/June 16 NS, July 17, 1790, was a Scottish moral philosopher and a pioneering political economist. He is also the founder of economics, one of the key figures of the intellectual movement known as the Scottish Enlightenment. He is known primarily as the author of two treatises, The Theory of Moral Sentiments 1759 and An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of the Wealth of Nations 1776. The latter was one of the earliest attempts to systematically study the historical development of industry and commerce in Europe, as well as a sustained attack on the doctrines of mercantilism. Smith's work helped to create the modern academic discipline of economics and provided one of the best-known intellectual rationales for free trade, capitalism, and libertarianism. Adam Smith is now depicted on the back of the Bank of England £20 note. Source, Wikipedia note. This book is brought to you by Feed Books. http://www.feedbooks.com. Strictly for personal use. Do not use this file for commercial purposes. Introduction and plan of the work. The annual labor of every nation is the fund which originally supplies it with all the necessaries and conveniencies of life which it annually consumes, and which consists always either in the immediate produce of that labor, or in what is purchased with that produce from other nations. According, therefore, as this produce, for what is purchased with it, there is a greater or smaller proportion to the number of those who are to consume it, the nation will be better or worse supplied with all the necessaries and conveniencies for which it has occasion. But this proportion must in every nation be regulated by two different circumstances. First, by the skill, dexterity, and judgment with which its labor is generally applied, and, secondly, by the proportion between the number of those who are employed in useful labor, and that of those who are not so employed. Whatever be the soil, climate, or extent of territory of any particular nation, the abundance or scantiness of its annual supply must, in that particular situation, depend upon those two circumstances. The abundance or scantiness of this supply, too, seems to depend more upon the former of those two circumstances than upon the latter. Among the savage nations of hunters and fishers, every individual who is able to work is more or less employed in useful labor, and endeavors to provide, as well as he can, the necessaries and conveniencies of life, for himself, and such of his family or tribe as are either too old, or too young, or too infirm, to go a-hunting and fishing. Such nations, however, are so miserably poor, that, from mere want, they are frequently reduced, or at least think themselves reduced, to the necessity sometimes of directly destroying, and sometimes of abandoning their infants, their old people, and those afflicted with lingering diseases, to perish with hunger, or to be devoured by wild beasts. Among civilized and thriving nations, on the contrary, though a great number of people do not labor at all, many of whom consume the produce of 10 times, frequently of 100 times, more labor than the greater part of those who work, yet the produce of the whole labor of the society is so great, that all are often abundantly supplied, and the workman, even of the lowest and poorest order, if he is frugal and industrious, may enjoy a greater share of the necessaries and conveniencies of life than it is possible for any savage to acquire. The causes of this improvement in the productive powers of labor, and the order according to which its produce is naturally distributed among the different ranks and conditions of men in the society, make the subject of the first book of this inquiry. Whatever be the actual state of the skill, dexterity, and judgment with which labor is applied in any nation, the abundance or scantiness of its annual supply must depend, during the continuance of that state, upon the proportion between the number of those who are annually employed in useful labor, and that of those who are not so employed. The number of useful and productive laborers, it will hereafter appear, is everywhere in proportion to the quantity of capital stock which is employed in setting them to work, and to the particular way in which it is so employed. The second book, therefore, treats of the nature of capital stock, of the manner in which it is gradually accumulated,